Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis looking for those 1,000 best practices, technology, services, products, and of course the leaders that are taking care of these as we move forwards and through the 21st century. And as we go to a planet of 9 billion people, how are we going to be able to provide all the basic infrastructure that's needed? One of those, of course, is healthcare, and one of the most dangerous animals on the planet, as they say, is the mosquito. Mosquito is spreading around the globe, and so we have a gentleman that's going to be coming on and talking about this who is a true expert. This is Brian C. Francois. He's the global CEO of Pulcra Chemicals and the Skintex MR3. And he's from Rock Hill, South Carolina, and also Geretsried, Germany. Sitting right beside me, because Brian's going to be coming in by Skype, is Richard W. Lewis, Rich Lewis, who's been with us before, Technology Marketing Officer for Augur Marketing and President of the Winfield Group. And Brian, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you, Sam.
Glad to have you with us. And I want to come up with this first slide if we can, because I just love this logo that you have here on your Skintex. But tell us a little bit about Pulcra Chemicals, and it's the innovations that you've been bringing to the world literally for so many years.
Well, Pulcra Chemicals is a global specialty chemical company. We are privately held. We are in 14 different markets around the world, but we mainly service the specialty needs of the textile, fiber, and leather markets. And one of the products that we're talking about today is an interesting technology that we've been developing, not only for in the Skintex MR3, but other areas over the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I understand that actually you really have a broad range of consumer products, and you are able then to take the innovation and research that you're doing and spread it across various types of products. Tell us a little bit about the diversity that you have, and then we'll get into the real chemicals and textiles part of that.
Yeah, we service, as you said, a lot of interesting specialty chemistries. So we deal with everything from specialty surfactants in lubricants for extruding fibers to many of the interesting technologies that consumers might see in the marketplace. A lot of things going into women's hosiery around microencapsulation technology for providing long-term benefits on moisturizing and other things to the skin. Mm-hmm. So that's where we started with some of the technology that we're now taking into some of the healthcare areas.
Well, I understand you have the reputation as one of the most important companies that most people have not heard of.
That's true. We are a small company. We've been carved out of some larger companies over the last decade, so we're definitely a company that most people have not heard of, at least on the consumer side of things.
Well, looking at the mosquito, this is called the world's most deadliest animal. Why is that, and how can a company like yours, chemicals and fabric materials, be going into that particular area to address that?
Yeah, most people wouldn't think of the mosquito as the most deadly animal in the world. I think if you see some of the publications from the World Health Organization, it's amazing the number of people that perish based on the bites of mosquitoes. It's by far outstrips any other animal deaths across the globe.
Yeah, looking at the information you provided, it's anywhere from about, the actual number I see here is about 725,000, but it goes to over 1 million a year if you look at WHO records. That's a huge number of humanity that's dying on a year-to-year basis from something that most people can't even see.
It's amazing that how little attention until recently with the Gates Foundation and all the things that they've been doing, how little attention's been paid to it. I think that's because the majority of the deaths are happening in regions of the world where most, especially Americans, don't pay a lot of attention. Sub-Saharan Africa, tropical Southeast Asia, and other places.
Yeah, it's just like the Zika virus, and something that's happened, for years, was known about, I guess, since almost the end of World War II. We get the first American with it, and all of a sudden, it becomes major world news.
Yeah, I think it first really raised its head in our part of the world in Brazil only last year. So it's taken a long time for it to reach from Africa and Southeast Asia to the Americas.
Well, Brian, the next question is going to come from Rich. Rich, why don't you ask the next question?
Sure. Hi, Brian. That's an amazing number. It's more people affected by this than the number of people killed on the wars on terror. So why is this health crisis allowed to persist?
Well, I think, as I mentioned, you are right. I mean, I think the statistics that we've seen recently is that on an annual basis, man is the second deadliest creature known to man. The statistics, I think, from the last few years show around 400,000 people are killed by other human beings in wars and violence. So this is almost twice the population, or even greater, depending on the numbers that you see. So my take is that, again, the majority of these deaths are occurring in areas where the interest level is less. So when you get into Sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia, they tend to be the more impoverished parts of the world. People talk a lot about food, but they don't always talk about the diseases that are there.
Yeah, and that's something that's really critical, Brian, and something we need to look at. And of course, that has a tremendous impact as far as the public health services in many of these developing countries. And so it's something that, they say for every one person that comes down with, say, malaria, then it takes almost 2 family members out of the breadwinning stream. And so that really has a huge financial impact, household to household.
Agreed. I mean, one of the biggest issues, as you pointed out, is not just the disease, but the fact that they're happening in impoverished areas. So when someone does become ill, they have less opportunity to earn money. So the poverty cycle gets actually worse.
Now, looking at Pulcra, I know you are operating in or have facilities in 14 different countries. You cover all the major regions of the world. But how do you reach into some of these more developing countries, say on the African continent, Latin America, Southeast Asia, even the South Pacific, to introduce your new products, and of course, specifically as far as the Skintex MR3?
Well, when we're dealing with specifically the Skintex MR3, it's a very unique project for us as a company, and we're in it for different reasons than we're in other parts of our business. So we're finding it challenging, I guess, in dealing with what we don't normally deal with. We're not used to dealing with nonprofit organizations. We're not used to dealing with the WHO or the World Health Organization. These are all learning curves that we've been going through, especially over the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, when you're providing, the base materials going into manufacturing for so many other consumer products, I mean, it really is a new threshold. How has that impacted on the corporate culture as far as Pulcra is concerned? Because you've been dedicated to this for many years yourself. I mean, you're really one of the creators of this whole thing. You're being very modest, but.
I mean, we've actually, the person running the program now for us, Troy Massey, is the person who came to us with the idea. We had this Skintex trade name, and the things we were doing was developed by our team in Spain. And the idea of encapsulating an insecticide into and ways to deliver that was introduced by him. But it's ironic that he's now running the program for us. But you're right. I've been involved in it for more than a decade, so it's near and dear to my heart, and I'm glad to be in a position now where we can try to push it more from our side.
Well, it's fantastic, and having the title of Global CEO really helps as far as this whole effort. But if you can see this, Brian, this map as far as the mosquitoes moving around the globe, it looks like this is something as a for-profit company, but really having the social enterprise spirit. This is something it looks like you may be involved in for a long time.
Yeah, we believe we will be. I mean, we feel that this really fits into our company's core culture. We have three main core values that we deal with, which is our people, partnerships, and the planet. And I think this deals with all of those. We're working on partnerships. If you look at where we do business on a regular basis, the textiles, especially in the leather markets, are the manufacturing is in some of these poor countries now. So we have workers who are directly affected by these things. So it's not only our people, but it's our customers as well.
Yeah, this is something that's really having an impact. But I guess what really precipitated this actual broadcast tonight and the interviews is the Zika that spread from out of Africa into Latin America, specifically Brazil. And now they're saying it's going across all the Caribbean, into Mexico, even some now in the United States. So what do you see about the spread of the Zika, and how you think that through the very innovative technology that you have, the Skintex MR3, how you can address this, and what do you think needs to be the next steps?
Well, you're right. I mean, we have presence in a lot of those areas, so it's very interesting to see how it's become such a popular thing in the U.S. news. We've been dealing with it a little bit directly with the Brazilian operations that we have, but I think the impact is going to be there for a long time. But the things that we're working on, one of the interesting things when you look, especially in the South America and Central America, there's such a large transient population of people that some of the traditional ways of dealing with mosquitoes are not as effective as they are in some other regions. And one of the projects that we have is the Skintex MR3 cover or a blanket, and we feel it's perfect for being able to protect the people that don't have places to live, that are in these transient times, whether it's from war or poverty or natural disasters. So,
well, we've absolutely just about run out of time. What do you see for the expansion of Pulcra chemicals, say, over the next 5, 10, 15 years as far as addressing this? And we have about 10 seconds to do all that, Brian. Sorry.
No problem. We have a lot of innovative research coming down the pike as far as this type of technology goes.
Well, it's absolutely fantastic. Brian C. Francois of Pulcra Chemicals, thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs or to make a tax-free donation, contact C. Fripp at AOL.com.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America and Reading is Fundamental.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. on a week-to-week basis as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for not only the technologies, the services and products, but also the impact that's happening as far as healthcare as we go to a planet of 9 billion souls. And we have someone who's joining us that's looking at the impact as far as the Zika virus, malaria, and 13 other what they call neglected tropical diseases, and the impact it has on almost 3.2 billion people, potential candidates to be infected with these various diseases. Brian C. Vasquez is the global CEO of Pulcra Chemicals Group and Skintex MR3, Rock Hill, South Carolina, and Geretsried, Germany. And sitting right beside me, because Brian is coming in by Skype, is Richard W. Lewis, who is the Technology Marketing Officer for Augur Marketing and President of the Winfield Group. So Brian, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Sam, thank you very much.
You're coming in by Skype, and we're certainly pleased to have you. You led the research and development on what was called Skintex MR3. Tell us a little bit about why Pulcra Chemicals would be involved in such a very unique product, and we're going to talk about some of the uniqueness of that.
And what is...
Okay. Originally, Skintex MR3, third generation. It was originally Skintex MR when it was first standing for mosquito repellency. Was first introduced actually to meet some military demands for the fighting uniforms for the desert and all of the issues with bugs and the spread of disease with the U.S. military. So that was the initial impact for that. And then more recently, in the last few years, we've been working with one of our partners on a very unique blanket that's been developed that contains this technology.
Yeah, with the Skintex MR3, you're using something that was started in World War II, permethrin, which came out of the chrysanthemum. That's very interesting that, you know, we're at war with Japan and the symbol of the royal household is the chrysanthemum. And then, but yet it's still considered to be the only our product that can be used around skin for both animals and humans. So tell us a little bit about permethrin and then what is encapsulation?
Yeah, the permethrin that we're using is actually a synthetic version of the technology that was used in World War II, which was the actual extract of the chrysanthemum flower. The synthetic version is more stable to UV and sunlight and other things. So it's a very effective product. It's the only product that the WHO and the EPA permits to be put into fabrics and garments for close skin contact.
Yeah, that's just incredible. And we just brought up your logo here. I just love this on the dead mosquito. That's the best way for mosquitoes. Anyway, Brian, yes, I'm going to let Rich ask the next question. Go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Rich.
What is microencapsulation and why is that such a game changer?
Microencapsulation basically is a process where we take the active ingredient, make very small droplets of it, and then actually form a shell around it. So it would be like taking a very microscopic M&M and putting the candy shell around it.
Well, looking at the permethrin and the encapsulation of that, this is something that's quite unique. And I tell people that you have all this advanced technology and a material, but it's all things you can't really see. And so you look at the fabric itself is quite unique as far as how it's made and, you know, the bite-through characteristics. Tell us a little bit about the fabric itself.
The fabric itself is a very unique fabric. One of our partners that we actually worked with, it's actually a non-woven fabric, so it's not woven or knit. It's done by a patented hydro-entangling methodology. So basically, it produces a very dense fabric as far as very little pores. So it's windproof, waterproof, and then also allows us to put a lot of microcapsules into the fabric, so we can give it some very unique properties that we couldn't do with a normal woven or knit fabric.
I know that this is one of the criteria, the WHO, this bite-through concept. Tell us a little bit about, or a little bit more about the fabric itself and how that this bite-through is so important. That goes back to Rich's question that he had as far as the permethrin and encapsulation. And how does that keep the mosquitoes, ticks, lice, all these blood-sucking vermin from actually getting to the humans that's there?
Well, permethrin is a nerve toxin to most of those insects, so it basically acts to confuse them and eventually kill them if they ingest it. So what's unique about the microencapsulation system is basically we don't link the actual active ingredient to the fabric. We link the microcapsules to it, so that with friction and time and movement, some of these capsules will break and then leave the toxin to the insects. And then at the same time, if they do try to bite through the fabric, the chances are very high that the probe will actually break one of these capsules and ingest directly the liquid form of the permethrin, which is very toxic to them.
Now, something that you and I didn't talk about, but I know from the two gentlemen that are working very closely with you, David Pierce and Troy Massey, is that you have what's called the halo effect.
Yes.
For this material, and I'd like to, if we can, no pun intended, weave that into our conversation right now and how that works, because people keep coming up to me and saying, well, you were one of the leaders for the monarch butterfly program, so how can you have such a product and the ladybugs and all these things? So the halo effect has different impacts as far as the insects, but also protecting humans.
Yeah, I mean, from a halo perspective, basically being a nerve toxin to mosquitoes and things, basically most of the insects don't even want to land on the fabrics that are treated. So when we do a lot of our tests, we try to put things into the extreme to get them to try to bite through the fabric and test. But in most cases, if you're wearing a garment or using a blanket, mosquitoes are going to look for other feeding sources. They're not going to try to actually alight on the fabric in any way if they have options.
And I understand through your research that butterflies and more benign insects really, I guess they sense the danger, and so they want to go elsewhere as well.
From the research that we've seen, yes. I mean, they don't tend to want to alight on it. It's almost like they know that there's an issue there. So. Mosquitoes and other insects that are, especially the blood-sucking insects, are the ones that would tend to try to probe through the fabric because they're looking for food sources, where the others are not that type of insect.
What is the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. EPA, and what's the impact and also the registration process as far as a product like this, which can be recognized in the United States, but also abroad?
Yeah, the U.S. EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency, handles basically all chemicals, especially agricultural and pesticidal chemicals, everything other than cosmetics and medicines. So basically, getting through the registration process is very complex. We have a lot of testing that we have to do, both from an environmental perspective as well as toxicity, human toxicity, and other things.
No, that's fantastic. Rich, why don't you ask the next question? And then, Brian, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about this slide that you see right behind Rich and me.
Yeah, Brian, real quick, why is the testing so important, and why is the required registration so important? When combating the Zika and the TCTC transmitting sleeping insects, things like that, or the
sleeping sickness.
Yeah, the sickness.
The sleeping sickness. Yeah, I mean the registration is important because I think it gives everybody a level playing field about the comfort and the safety of the products. We probably had to do about 25 different tests on everything from the skin sensitivity to aquatic toxicity to human interaction and other things. And those are the required basic tests to get an EPA registration. So once you have those, it really gives people the comfort level that you can move forward in a safe and effective manner.
Yeah, Brian, I want to raise too, this was part of that question that Rich had about the ticks and the Lyme disease, which is spreading at a very rapid rate because of climate change in the United States. What's the impact as far as ticks? And this is something both for animals like horses and dogs, and also as far as humans that'll be out in the woods or in their gardens or what have you.
Well, I mean, permethrin is very effective against ticks. We've actually had one of our customers who's making a knit leg guard using the Skintex MR3. So something that you could put, on your feet and ankles, so that when you're outside in the summertime for scouts and other things that are other activities when you're in the woods or in gardening to keep the ticks repelled. So it has similar toxicity to ticks as it does to mosquitoes.
Looking at this slide we have here, this is, of course, this is something that's stylized, but explaining how the material itself actually works with the permethrin encapsulation and then the probes as far as the insects. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing.
Basically, on the left side of the screen with the orange small dots, those are actually microcapsules. We colored the microcapsules, and that's actually a scanning electron microscope looking at the fiber level to see the size of, in comparison. Most of these microcapsules are between 2 and 5 microns in diameter, so they're relatively small. The right side is actually the same type of microphotograph of the probe or the proboscis that actually penetrates the skin when the mosquito feeds. So the idea here is that the mosquito probe is much larger than these capsules, so the percentage chance of them actually ingesting these if they try to probe through the fabric is extremely high.
That's absolutely incredible. And of course, this is some of the ones being protected. We're just about run out of time, Brian, as always happens when we're trying to have this type of discussion. But what do you see for the acceptance of the Skintex MR3, particularly with this emphasis on Zika and a renewed interest in malaria, dengue, yellow fever, even the chikungunya that's spreading across the Caribbean?
We're starting to see a lot more interest. We're working with a few brands on actually treating T-shirts and other garments especially for the Caribbean area. And with some of the potential changes in the World Health Organization, we're looking forward to being able to introduce the blanket as well.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. This is Brian Francois, who is the Global CEO of Pulcra Chemicals Group and Skintex MR3. Richard Lewis is sitting right beside me here in the studio. And thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Live from the Washington...
Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about 3,000 life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home? When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you weekly basis, coming from Washington, D.C. in the United States, as we're looking around the globe and all the continents, looking for those 1,000 best practices, technology, services, products, and the people are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And one of the great scourges of the earth, of course, is malaria. And now emerging is Zika, which is getting headwinds across Brazil and throughout Latin America, and a number of other what they call neglected tropical diseases, dengue, yellow fever, and many others, which actually kill millions of people on a year-to-year basis. Something in doing the research for this, we found out that there's more people dying on an annual basis from just malaria alone than from all the wars on terrorism across the globe. Something that really needs to be addressed. And we have a gentleman who is the global CEO and a leader of world opinion that's actually been working on this for a number of years. Brian C. Francois, who is with the Pulcra Chemical Group and also Skintex MR3 in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and Geretsried, Germany, and then sitting right beside me, and he's coming in by Skype. And then sitting right beside me is Richard Lewis, who is the Technology Marketing Officer for Augur Marketing and also the President of the Winfield Group. And Brian, welcome to Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you, Sam.
Looking at Pulcra Chemicals, and you have a extensive research and development arm across the 14 countries where you're working. You work with literally thousands of clients around the world. But why move to this infectious disease control and a product that you can put in the hands of everyone on the planet if they knew about it and we could go ahead and try to get it out there?
Well, for us, I think it perfectly fits into our core values as a company. Our core values are around dealing with the people that we work with and the people we work around, the partnerships that we deal with in our industry, as well as the planet. So I think this is a cause that's near and dear to our hearts, just because it's chemistry that we're familiar with, but it also affects a lot of the areas where we do work and do business.
Yeah, looking at the employees that you have, we're thinking about the at-risk citizens that live in these various countries, but many times we don't think about the corporations, particularly American corporations that do work abroad, trying to protect their own employees so they keep the productivity up, they can support their families and make excellent products. So when you're talking about this internally, what kind of conversations, if you don't mind sharing, are you having with your people and saying this is something that's really important for the countries of the world, it's important for your families, and how do we get this out into the general public?
Well, it is a continuing dialogue that we have within the company. We've given our employees in all parts of the world opportunities to donate some of the blankets that have been created with our partners to other organizations. We continue to look at ways that we can use this technology, not as much to protect our own individual employees, but the markets where they live. I mean, it's not just about the productivity of our workers; it's about the environment where they live.
Now, looking at this microencapsulated permethrin that you're using in the Skintex MR3, how are you making people aware of this and getting information out to the general public in areas, particularly in the tropics where it's really needed, where there's literally millions of people that are exposed to malaria, Zika, dengue, yellow fever, all these other infectious diseases, literally on a minute-by-minute basis? I mean, it's really critical.
Yeah, I mean, our team is constantly working with officials with the WHO, the World Health Organization, and a lot of different ministries of health in different countries in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Caribbean, and other places. So there's a lot of discussions ongoing around it. We have a few paradigms that we have to overcome in dealing with the WHO and some of these other organizations, because mainly we're dealing with a blanket is our way of trying to fight these diseases, and it's a unique approach.
Yeah, well, and we see these young faces here as they head to their elementary school, and this is something that I know near and dear to you as far as you're trying to protect these. Rich, why don't you ask the next question?
Sure. Brian, what kind of help is needed by the WHO, the World Bank, United Nations, or how can we help them to get the word out and to spread the word?
I think our biggest challenge right now is trying to find a good charitable partner that has the distribution angles, so that and distribution inroads into a lot of these places, so that we can get these blankets to the right people at the right time. I think that's our biggest challenge right now. Our second biggest challenge is the fact that there is no WHO protocol for our product. It's around nets and other things, and ours is not a net. It doesn't have as severe chemistry as they put on some of these mosquito nets. It's definitely used more intimate to the body than those type of technologies. So the protocol doesn't exist for getting WHO approval.
Yeah, and of course, you've actually met and exceeded the WHO testing standards for this, and then that goes back to the U.S. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and the registrations that you've gone through. But you have the uniqueness about this, it really is knock dead, knock down. This is something in working with Troy Massey and David Pierce we've really talked about extensively. Tell us a little bit about this knock dead, knock down features of the Skintex MR3.
Yeah, I think what we have is a unique system because of the way that we're delivering the permethrin, the active ingredient, through microencapsulation. We've actually been able to take something like a blanket and actually meet all of the protocol for a mosquito net. So something that can be approved in close to the body, which a mosquito net is not approved for. So this knockdown, knock dead test method is a very severe test method used for mosquito nets, so that you can actually disable and then eventually kill the mosquitoes that come in contact with the fabric.
Yeah, we're talking about the use in sportswear and other kinds of things to get it out into the public, and of course Zika is spreading across all across the Brazil and other places. So can this be used by the major sports companies that actually are making uniforms for field and track and soccer and all these other sports that would be in world competition?
Yes, this technology can be used basically on almost any fabric, and we have several different application methods to do that.
Looking at the complement to other products out there, what are some of the things that can the blankets do as far as the bed nets themselves can't do, even the personal sprays that people are using and other kinds of things?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that we see from a blanket perspective is if you look behind you, I think on the photograph, the majority of the issues with the population that are susceptible to a lot of these tropical diseases is the fact that they don't have a place to live. They don't have a place to hang a net. They don't have a bed. So without any of these type of things, the fact that they have a mosquito net that's been given and distributed to them, they really don't have a way of using it. It's not designed to wrap a baby in, where the blanket could protect a baby or a mother while they're sleeping, even during the day. It's a good ground cover. It helps repel bugs from a ground cover. It's water repellent, so very durable, doesn't tear like a lot of the mosquito nets do. So there's a lot of benefits to the mosquito, the MR3 blanket, that don't exist with a lot of the technologies that they're using today.
Well, I can attest to that. We were in Tanzania for 15 days, and going out, we were in 50 different communities, and we had a quick downpour. So I had one of the blankets, and there was a family, it was a mom and dad and 4 children. We put it over them. They stood there in the downpour, and everybody stayed perfectly dry except for, what was splashing on the ground. So it definitely works in shedding that. And expanding on that topic, how would that work in disaster areas and war-torn areas? You have some 6 million people displaced through the Syrian conflict. They're spread throughout Turkey, Greece, and many other places. How could this be used there, not only for keeping the mosquitoes and other vermin away, but as far as the elements itself is concerned?
Well, with the durability of this product and the way that it's manufactured, it really has multiple uses. We've seen in some of the ones we've distributed, we've seen people make it into a backpack to carry their goods. Then they can just, when they set up camp, they have a bed, they have a bedroll, ground cover, tarp over the top of them. You can imagine all the ways that you could use a blanket that's basically a waterproof, wind-resistant fabric. And very durable to the elements. The active ingredient is very long-lasting. Has been tested through basically more than what it would get in a lifetime of use. So it has a lot of properties besides the effect of the Skintex MR3.
Yeah, I understand, Brian, through the research that actually, I guess the European Union is requesting over 100 washes of this, and you still have 100% kill rate as far as the encapsulated permethrin.
Yeah, we've recently done work with our technology to meet the German military requirements, which are 100 European wash cycles, which but not only are high agitation, but also have a heat boost cycle. So it's much worse than you would imagine if in most of these countries, people are washing their product in a river or in a bucket or anything else. So we meet much more severe requirements than would really be needed in the normal marketplace.
Yeah, I understand in many of these countries, some of the ones we're looking at here, that a blanket may be washed 1.5 times, I guess, is the average in some of these places. Rich, why don't you ask your question? And we're about running out of time, Brian, so we have to be quick.
Brian, real quick, you discussed briefly that it's not a woven product. Why is that so important?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part of your question.
Yeah, sure. Why is it so important that it is not a woven product, the blanket?
Well, basically, from the way it's made, there's a lot less chance for both tearing and holes. A woven product or a knit product by nature has more space between the fibers. With the technology that we have, it allows it to be almost naturally water repellent and wind resistant, as well as being very strong and durable.
Well, we've run absolutely out of time, Brian, so we really thank you for being with us and sharing about your Skintex MR3 and Pulcra Chemicals. This is Brian Francois, Global CEO, Pulcra Chemicals. And thank you for being with us. And Richard Lewis, who's sitting right beside me, of the Augur Marketing and the Winfield Group. And thank you for watching as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent, like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, a president, executive director of Emerald Planet TV, coming to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States. We look around the globe for 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, products in 144 different nations. And we're doing this as we move towards a planet by 2050 with about 9 billion people, and by the end of the century, that's possible of 12 to 13 billion people. So how do we protect them so it's an increasing quality of life, and at the same time to provide the basic infrastructure that's needed to do all this? And we have someone who's really been working at this, thinking about it, but also is an innovation leader and a global CEO for the Pulcra Chemicals Group, which is in 14 nations around the globe. This is Brian C. Francois. And they have a very unique product called Skintex MR3 out of Rock Hill, South Carolina, and also the Geretsried, Germany. He's coming in by Skype, and right beside me is Richard Lewis, Technology Marketing Officer for Augur Marketing and also President of the Winfield Group. And Brian, thank you for being with us and sharing this very innovative product with us.
Thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure to be with you.
And tell us about the interconnection between Pulcra Chemical. You can see the logos right behind Rich and myself, and also the Skintex MR3.
Well, Skintex MR3 is just one of the technologies that we have in our portfolio of products, but it's a product near and dear to my heart that we've been involved with probably for more than a decade. It's a product that we feel is the right product for improving the life and the health of people around the world.
So why are you so committed to the Skintex MR3? You've been involved in this in the very beginning, and we've talked several times about Troy Massey, and he came to you a number of years ago, and there's been a tremendous amount of investment put into this product, and now a great effort to make sure that people are aware of it, and working with the WHO and the United Nations, the U.S. Department of Defense, many others. That takes a lot of time, money, and effort of the corporation in order to get it out to the people that really need it.
That's true. I mean, obviously, I have personal interest in it because I've been part of it for a long time. It just so happens that now that I have the responsibility as a global CEO of our corporation, we can do more investment from the standpoint of what we believe is the right thing to do.
Well, looking at these various sizes, and this really came out of our trip over to Tanzania, looking at the sizes, the people actually. So you have primary, secondary, adult. You have the shamazas, which is like the scars worn in the Middle East. But how do you think that this is all going to interrelate with other products to control mosquitoes, ticks, flies, and other types of vermin which are attacking humans on literally a minute-by-minute basis?
Well, I think with the fabric and the treatment that we have with the Skintex MR3, I think we can make a lot of different products to meet the needs that are there in the different countries. I mean, the challenge is being able to provide the products that people will actually use. So being able to give them to them in the right size, the right shape, or whatever it is from a cultural or historic basis is the best way of going about delivering this type of protection.
One of the questions that came in from one of our viewers, and actually some of the production crew, is actually taking this encapsulated permethrin and treating various garments. I know that when I went off to Tanzania, you sent me with 7 shirts, half of which were short sleeve and long sleeve, because when it gets really hot, I actually go to long sleeve shirts to protect from the sun. Tell us about that treatment and how can you apply this to any type of garment that people are using?
Basically, we can treat almost any article. We can both do it in a garment form or a fabric form. So there's really very few. I think from a registration perspective, the only garment that we're not allowed to treat is underwear. T-shirts are fine, but underwear from a there are many reasons for that, but there are very few pesticide treatments that you can actually put on underwear.
Yeah.
But any type of outer garment, T-shirts, pants, ponchos, hats. We've done it for socks. We've done it for hats, as you know from taking on your trip. So the blankets. We're working on bed sheets, vests for workers in the field, safety vests. There's a lot of new projects that are underway for this type of technology.
That's fantastic. Well, this blanket you see right here, this was off to Madagascar, in Africa, and there's about an 80% chance that if you live in that area, you will be infected with malaria, dengue, and just about everything else that's out there. So it's something that's really needed. Rich, you have the next question.
Sure. One quick one, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Would this work for pet blankets and things like that? There's a rise in canine Lyme disease in the U.S.
Yeah, permethrin is not a chemistry that you would want for cats. I think there are issues with cats, but for dog bedding and other things, for sure, we've actually done that in the past for a couple of customers. The challenges with permethrin in cats.
One more quick question: is Pulcra Chemicals? You're doing so many great things, but are you developing any new life-saving products?
Yeah, there's several things that Troy and his team have going on from a research perspective. We have some projects that are going now through CDC, looking at encapsulation, trying to improve the longevity of the product, trying to improve the efficacy of our technology, as well as looking at more and more environmentally friendly ways of treating these diseases.
Well, you see all these people in the background here in Tanzania. There are people that are from Uganda and different countries actually in this photograph. So what are some of the examples of the new Skintex MR3 permethrin microencapsulation treated items that you may be looking at this time?
Well, one of the things I know Troy is working with is looking with one of our African partners to actually send the fabric and allow them to cut it into the different types of things that would be more in keeping with the market. We're looking at more colorful patterns in other words, to try to make products that people will actually use. So we're trying to take the technology with this fabric that's very much proven. At the same time, we have partners who are working on brand new fabric developments, 3D technology for fabrics that would give even more bite-through protection. I mentioned earlier workers' vests. We have one company who's doing leg guards for ticks. So there's a lot of other technologies that we're working with our customers on.
Yeah, this is one of about 20 small enterprises. The lady here owns her own sewing company. This again is in Tanzania. But this is something we're talking about with these 100-yard rolls that are about, I think they're about 37 pounds. So, a woman that has her own company could actually move those around and cut these and then create new jobs. And looking at new jobs creation through the Skintex MR3, what are some of your thoughts about how to involve the material at the local level so that more and more people would have jobs in these least developed countries?
I think that's happening already within the textile industry. So as long as those operations exist, the type of technology that we're dealing with is relatively easy to outsource from that perspective. We're not a cut and sew. We're a chemical company. We don't manufacture the fabrics. We don't manufacture garments. So our goal is to get these out to the people where they need them. So right now it looks like doing it by that methodology long term is the best way of doing it.
Yeah, this is a photograph with a university chancellor and one of the senior professors, and this is something that they were very interested in as far as not only having it as far as uniforms or attire for the university students and even down in the high school, but also to use it as far as drapes and blankets and all these other kinds of things that you would normally have on a university campus. How could something like this Skintex MR3 be spread throughout all these types of educational institutions and have an impact in the community itself?
That would be relatively simple as long as we would be able to find the source of where the fabric is being processed. Our application technology and our technicians are spread across the world, so we can take the technology where it's needed and put it on the fabrics that's needed. All we need is the opportunity.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And this is actually in Benin where this is happening, Brian. Why don't you ask another question, Rich?
Sure. Do you have any final thoughts on how Promethean, did I pronounce it right? Permethrin, sorry, microencapsulated Skintex can help combat Zika, malaria, and other infectious diseases and the source of, from blood-sucking insects?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are several ways that the technology can be helpful. The biggest challenge is getting the decision makers at some of our customers and in some of the industries to take the first step. Some of them are very risk averse, and dealing with pesticides is not in their normal way of dealing with garments and fabrics. So it's a very unique process, and it takes a lot of convincing for marketing and decision makers at a lot of brands to take that leap of faith.
Well, as the global CEO, you've really been committed to this product. You've been committed to the technology, both the fabric itself and, of course, the permethrin microencapsulation. What do you see as far as the long-term investment in this as we're moving forward towards 2050?
Well, we see that we're going to continue to, from our investment side of it, we're going to continue to push forward with the technology. At the same time, we're looking at new and better technologies for the future. I think with the way the Gates Foundation is really pushing malaria and vector control, I think there's more and more research that's happening, and I believe that this technology and some of the technologies that we're working will be very beneficial for this in the future.
Well, I think this family and these young people that you see right here in this scene is really, they have a bright future in front of them if they can keep the various diseases from invading them and reducing their impact. But this is Brian C. Francois. He is the global CEO of Pulcra Chemicals Group and Skintex MR3. Rich Lewis is sitting right beside me, and thank you for being with us as we look around the globe. Rich, thank you for being here with us. Brian, thank you very much for spending so much time with us and sharing about this great product as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
My pleasure, thank you.